They say that power can corrupt even the best of us, but in some cases it doesn't merely corrupt, it weaponizes hatred. In a bustling Philadelphia neighborhood, a routine traffic stop becomes the catalyst for a battle of wills and a test of conscience. Officer Ray Hicks, a man who has worn his badge for far too long without accountability, arrests Tasha Robinson, a community organizer whose every breath speaks of justice. But he has no idea who he is really up against. Enter Cassandra James, a high-powered lawyer determined to unravel the truth. When these worlds collide, justice and fate spin into motion. Philadelphia's Broad Street pulsed with life. Street vendors sold everything from steaming cheesesteaks to handmade trinkets. Tourists craned their necks to admire the stately architecture of City Hall, and residents bustled to their next meeting, meal, or moment of respite. The city had many faces, from wealthy enclaves to struggling neighborhoods that bore the scars of systemic neglect. No matter where you looked, Philadelphia told an intricate story of resilience and tension. In one corner of this multifaceted city was Tasha Robinson, a dedicated activist in her early 30s. She had grown up under the watchful eye of her parents, devout churchgoers who instilled in her the unbreakable spirit of faith and community. Her father, the late Reverend Samuel Robinson, had once stood arm in arm with local civil rights leaders, organizing peaceful protests against discrimination that plagued their neighborhood. Though Samuel passed away years ago, Tasha carried forward his commitment to equality, working as a community liaison with the local branch of the NAACP. She was recognized for her warm smile, fierce determination, and an eloquence that could ignite hearts even in the bleakest of times. Tasha's life was far from glamorous. She was juggling her job at the community center with volunteer responsibilities, always scraping together funds to keep neighborhood programs alive. Philadelphia had its share of woes: underfunded schools, overworked social workers, and a city government that tried its best but often fell short of meeting everyone's needs. Through it all, Tasha fought for justice, focusing on youth mentorship programs and job training initiatives. Young people in the neighborhood knew that Tasha was a listening ear, a source of guidance, and a shining example of perseverance. Officer Ray Hicks was another piece of the city's tapestry. For years, he had navigated the labyrinth of city politics and policing and climbed the ranks in the Philadelphia Police Department through a mixture of persistence and intimidation. Colleagues whispered about his brusque manner. Some even joked that Hicks had a sixth sense for finding trouble in communities of color, though they all knew it wasn't really a joke. His record showed an unsettling pattern of excessive force complaints, mostly against Black and Latino civilians. The department, stretched thin and eager to protect its own, had never significantly disciplined him. But Hicks was not just a cop in uniform, he was a man whose prejudices influenced his every choice. Decades of unchecked anger and resentment had shaped him into the epitome of the authoritarian bully. He had pinned enough ribbons on his chest to give the impression of a stellar service record. Complaints, to him, were simply inconveniences. He was convinced that he was the lone soldier in a war against criminal elements who happened to live in predominantly black neighborhoods. The press rarely covered him, and if they did, it was in short blurbs about an officer-involved incident that quickly faded from public memory. It is no wonder that a collision between Tasha Robinson and Officer Ray Hicks was as inevitable as it was explosive. The incident that would catalyze Tasha's dramatic struggle against injustice began on a Friday evening. Tasha was driving her aging sedan back to her apartment on North 17th Street. She had just finished a late shift volunteering at the local community center, where she was organizing a holiday coat drive. Exhausted, she looked forward to a hot shower and a moment to herself before bed. Her phone buzzed, repeatedly messages of gratitude from the center staff, children's parents, and her close friend Simone, who was promising to help distribute flyers the next morning. As Tasha glanced at these messages at a red light, she smiled. It was that fleeting, hopeful smile someone wears when they can see their life's mission making a tangible difference. Maybe this was the moment she would finally sleep well, free from that gnawing anxiety about tomorrow's struggles. That's when the red and blue lights flashed behind her. She felt her stomach clench as she looked in the rearview mirror to see a police cruiser following her, siren blaring in short bursts. Her heart thumped like a drum, but she dutifully signaled, pulled over, and placed her hands on the steering wheel. She was aware of the social reality. A black person being pulled over often triggered fear, rational or not, because of a history of police brutality. Tasha reminded herself to remain calm, comply, and trust that being polite would diffuse any tension. Officer Ray Hicks stepped out of his patrol car. She could barely make out his face under the flashing lights, but she noticed his imposing build, the slow, purposeful gait, and the swagger that suggested he had done this more times than he cared to count. He wore the badge and uniform with an air of finality, as though he were judge, jury, and executioner on the street. He approached her window. License and registration, he barked, his tone clipped. "Good evening, officer," Tasha began politely. "May I ask why I said license and registration?" He cut her off, not even letting her finish. She noticed a hardness in his eyes. Tasha kept her voice steady. "Sure." She reached into her glove compartment. In a conscious effort to project calmness, she held the documents out slowly, ensuring he saw each movement. She didn't want him misinterpreting her motions. He snatched them from her hand and gave them a perfunctory glance. "You been drinking tonight?" he demanded. "No, sir," Tasha said simply. "I was just leaving the community center. I don't drink." He leaned closer to the window, as if searching for the smell of alcohol. "It's a little late for a nice drive, don't you think?" Tasha wanted to remain measured. "I volunteer at a youth program. We finished about half an hour ago." Hicks's eyes seemed to narrow. "You mind stepping out of the vehicle?" Tasha stiffened. She was not sure why that was necessary. "Is there an issue, officer? I'm giving you a lawful order to step out of the vehicle," he repeated. Something dark glimmered in his eyes, or perhaps Tasha only imagined it. With the kind of experiences many black drivers have had with law enforcement, maybe her fear made her see hostility where none existed. But it felt all too real. Reluctantly, Tasha opened her door and stepped onto the sidewalk. The cold air nipped at her, and a passing gust rustled the papers inside her car. Hicks beckoned her toward the rear of her sedan, where his dash cam could capture the incident, though Tasha suspected he only cared about the camera when it worked in his favor. "What's in your trunk?" he asked. "Just boxes of donated coats for a drive we're having." Her voice was still steady, but she felt her heart pounding. Hicks motioned for her to pop the trunk. Tasha pressed the release button, allowing him to rummage through the neatly packed coats. He rifled around aggressively, tossing some coats onto the ground. She bit her lip in frustration. "That's a nice gesture, huh?" he said, though his tone suggested anything but admiration. "You got a job?" "I work for the community center, and I also do administrative work for a local nonprofit," Tasha replied. "Aha. And how do you really make your money?" Tasha froze, stung by the implication. "Excuse me." He shot her a glare that halted any further defense. "Are you carrying any drugs, weapons, or anything illegal?" he pressed. "No, officer," Tasha said, exasperation creeping into her tone. "This is all for charity. I'm telling you the truth." Hicks slammed the trunk shut. "Turn around," he ordered, pulling out handcuffs. Her world slowed to a crawl. She heard her blood thundering in her ears. "Wait, I haven't done anything wrong." "You're being detained," he spat, grabbing her arm and twisting it behind her back. When she instinctively tried to pull away from the painful grip, Hicks growled, "Stop resisting!" "I'm not resisting," Tasha cried. But he had already forced her face first onto the trunk, cuffing her wrists with a cruel tightness. Tasha's breath came in ragged gasps. Adrenaline surged as humiliation and fear flooded her mind. She felt her phone vibrate incessantly in her coat pocket. Simone or someone else might be trying to reach her, but she couldn't move, her eyes stung with tears of shock. Cars passed by. Some drivers slowed to stare, but nobody stopped to help. Hicks pulled her upright. "Now you can spend a night in a holding cell," he sneered, "and maybe learn some respect." As he hauled her to the squad car, Tasha felt the first wave of dread. She was being arrested with no explanation beyond an apparent power trip. A swirl of confusion filled her. What had begun as a routine drive home was escalating into a life-altering confrontation. She had no idea just how far Officer Hicks's cruelty would go, or that she was about to meet an ally who would reshape her destiny. Tasha's mugshot was taken under the harsh fluorescent lights of the station. Her eyes were rimmed with tears, her hair disheveled, her expression one of sheer disbelief. The officer on duty simply went through the motions, offering no empathy. Tasha was fingerprinted, asked a series of curt questions, and informed that she would be formally booked on charges of resisting arrest and obstruction of justice. Hicks provided a narrative so threadbare it bordered on absurd, claiming Tasha had posed a safety concern because she was acting aggressively and refusing to follow lawful orders. He also alleged there was probable cause to suspect she might be transporting illegal contraband. With mechanical efficiency, the staff locked Tasha in a small holding cell with 2 flickering bulbs overhead and cold concrete benches. The stench of old sweat, disinfectant, and despair overwhelmed her. She shivered, in part from the chill and in part from a raging sense of injustice. The adrenaline had begun to subside, leaving her trembling and exhausted. She tried to steady her thoughts. She was Tasha Robinson, a respected community member, arrested with no valid reason. She replayed the events in her head, searching for where exactly she had misstepped. But deep down, she knew it wasn't about her actions, it was about Hicks's prejudices and the system that had enabled him for years. Minutes dragged on like hours. Eventually, a sympathetic female officer named Carla Rise, a rookie who had joined the force with hopes of mending community relations, approached Tasha's cell. "You got one phone call," Reyes said quietly, unlocking the door and leading Tasha to an ancient desk phone in the corridor. "Make it count." Tasha tried calling Simone, but it went straight to voicemail. She left a hurried, breathless message. "Simone, please, I've been arrested." "Officer Hicks, it's all a mistake. I need you to call me back or call a lawyer, please." Anxiety clawed at her as she hung up. She was escorted back to the holding cell, her mind spiraling with worry. How long would they keep her? Would Simone or anyone else be able to find a lawyer at this late hour? And what about the kids at the community center who relied on her for tomorrow's event? All the fear and confusion pressed down on her like an avalanche. Officer Reyes lingered outside Tasha's cell after relocking it, glancing around to ensure no one else was listening. "Look," she began softly, "I can't say much, but I'm sorry this is happening to you. I've heard things about Hicks." Tasha, mustering a fragile sense of hope, approached the bars. "He cuffed me for no reason," she said, tears threatening to spill again. "He's got it out for people like me." Rise nodded grimly. "You're not the first to say that. I joined the force to protect people, not to hurt them. I'll keep an eye on your case. If you need anything, I'm on the night shift." A flash of nerves crossed her face as she realized she might be risking her position. I don't want to see more injustice." "Thank you," Tasha whispered. For the rest of the night, Tasha dozed fitfully in that cramped cell, drifting between half-sleep and haunted wakefulness. She prayed not just for her own release, but for the resilience to face whatever was coming. In the back of her mind, she clung to the memory of her father's unwavering courage. He had taught her that, sooner or later, truth and justice always rise to the surface, no matter how deep authorities try to bury them. Morning arrived in a haze of buzzing fluorescent lights and half-hearted greetings from the rotating guard. Tasha had barely closed her eyes. When Officer Reyes came to open the cell, Tasha squinted in confusion at the abruptness. "You have a lawyer here," Reyes said. Her tone hinted at relief, as though she was glad Tasha had someone on her side. Tasha's heart fluttered at the news. She followed Reyes through a maze of corridors until they reached a small interview room where an immaculately dressed black woman, presumably in her mid-40s, was waiting. She wore a tailored navy blue suit, her hair in precise twists that framed her intelligent eyes. She exuded calm and confidence, the kind of energy that makes entire rooms go silent. "Tasha Robinson?" the woman asked, stepping forward. "I'm Cassandra James from Morgan and Morgan." Morgan and Morgan was indeed a real law firm, widely known for its robust civil litigation practice and its ad campaigns, though Cassandra was among a specialized team with a sharp focus on civil rights cases in the Philadelphia area. "Your friend Simone told me everything," she said, extending a firm handshake. Relief coursed through Tasha like a wave. I'm so glad you're here," she stammered. "I was taken in for no reason. The Officer Hicks, he claimed I was resisting arrest, but I didn't do anything." Cassandra set down her sleek, leather briefcase, which bore the letters of her firm. "I've already begun working to secure your release," she explained in a calm voice. "We're going to handle your bail hearing this morning. After that, we'll talk strategy." She sat opposite Tasha at a metal table, flipping open a folder containing typed notes and a few articles about Officer Hicks. "I did some preliminary research. It seems Officer Hicks has quite a record of complaints. Let's see if we can get this entire case dismissed before it gains steam. I'll be filing motions first thing." Though Tasha had never met Cassandra before, she felt an immediate sense of kinship. Cassandra's presence radiated authority tempered by warmth, suggesting that she wasn't merely here as a hired gun, but as someone who believed in Tasha's cause. "I appreciate it," Tasha said, voice quivering. "It's been a nightmare." Cassandra gave her a comforting nod. "I've represented clients against racist cops before. We won't let this stand. Now, can you walk me through what happened last night, from the moment you noticed his squad car behind you?" Tasha recounted the event in detail, occasionally pausing to collect her composure. She described how Hicks rummaged through her trunk, refused to answer her basic questions, and then manhandled her when she asked for clarification. Cassandra's pen glided across a yellow legal pad, her brow furrowing as the details became more egregious. When Tasha finished, Cassandra looked up. "This is textbook racial profiling and excessive use of force. The dash cam might have caught the arrest, but I'm not sure if it'll capture every detail. Regardless, we'll use every piece of evidence we can find. Now, let's focus on getting you out of here." Moments later, they were in a holding room by the courtroom where Tasha's bail hearing would take place. Cassandra spoke confidently with the bail commissioner, pointing out Tasha's clean record, her community ties, and the suspicious circumstances of her arrest. Within half an hour, the commissioner set a relatively modest bail. Simone, who had arrived, quickly posted it, and Tasha was free to go, though still under the shadow of formal charges. Outside the courthouse, Tasha inhaled fresh air, blinking away the tears that threatened to fall. Simone rushed forward, hugging her fiercely. "I was so worried," Simone breathed. "I called Cassandra as soon as I got your voicemail. Thank God," she answered. Cassandra gave them a moment before clearing her throat. "I'll drive you both home, and we can stop by my office on the way. We have some decisions to make." Though Tasha was physically free, her spirit bore fresh bruises. She had faced blatant racism and abuse of power, and now she was embroiled in a legal battle that could either crush her or spark monumental change. She glanced at Cassandra and Simone and felt, amid her fear, a renewed sense of possibility. Perhaps justice could still prevail. Cassandra's office, located in a sleek high-rise in Center City, Philadelphia, was a stark contrast to the fluorescent gloom of the police station. The sprawling workspace boasted polished marble floors, frosted glass partitions, and a flurry of paralegals, clerks, and receptionists moving briskly from one department to another. It spoke of an institution that didn't just dabble in legal battles, it dominated them. Tasha and Simone followed Cassandra into a large conference room, the walls lined with imposing books on law and civil rights precedents. The room smelled faintly of fresh coffee and printer ink. A young paralegal, Harpreet, greeted them with a nod and set down a tray with water, coffee, and tea before slipping out. Cassandra placed her briefcase on the conference table and opened it, retrieving a stack of papers and a laptop. "Here's what we know," she began, tapping the top sheet. "Officer Hicks is a 15-year veteran of the Philadelphia Police Department. He's had at least 7 civilian complaints filed against him, 4 for excessive force, 2 for racial profiling, 1 for harassment. All of them were either dismissed or closed after insufficient evidence. No meaningful internal discipline was ever carried out. The department tends to circle its wagons around officers like him, presumably to avoid lawsuits and bad PR." Simone's jaw clenched. "And the city pretends it's just a few bad apples." Cassandra gave a faint, wry smile. "Precisely. But these few bad apples cause disproportionate harm. Hicks's track record indicates a pattern, which strengthens our argument that Tasha's arrest was motivated by racial bias." Tasha lowered her eyes, remembering the sting of handcuffs. "So, how do we prove it in court?" Cassandra opened a laptop and turned the screen so both Tasha and Simone could see. "We gather every piece of evidence we can: body cam footage, dash cam footage, witness statements, any cell phone videos from bystanders, and we cross-reference it with Hicks's prior complaints to establish a pattern of misconduct. If there's video evidence that directly contradicts his arrest report, the DA might drop the charges, or we can fight it at trial. In the meantime, we can also file a civil rights lawsuit for wrongful arrest and excessive force under 42 U.S.C. 1983, naming Hicks and possibly the city as defendants." It sounded daunting to Tasha, but also necessary. "I'm willing to fight," she said quietly, "but I'm worried. I don't want to lose my job or my standing in the community. I don't have the funds for a drawn-out legal battle." Cassandra leaned forward, her tone reassuring. "Morgan & Morgan has resources to handle this, and we often take such cases on a contingency fee basis. We'll discuss the details. But your best move is to keep your job, keep your routines, and show the court that you're the upstanding citizen we know you are. Meanwhile, we'll do the heavy lifting." Simone interjected. "Where do we start? Do we talk to the DA or the media?" Cassandra nodded. "Yes, but strategically. We'll try to get the DA to drop the charges by showing them the holes in Hicks's version. If they don't drop it, we'll go to trial and mount a vigorous defense." She jotted down a note. "I'll reach out to a contact I have at the local paper, and possibly the Philadelphia Inquirer. Public pressure can force the department's hand." A knock on the door, Harpreet poked her head in. "Cassandra, the video from the station's overnight logs is in. I have an MP4 file from the dash cam as well." "Send it in," Cassandra instructed, opening a file-sharing program. Moments later, they watched the dash cam footage of Tasha's arrest in chilling clarity. Though some of it was obstructed by Tasha's car, the audio was crisp enough to capture Hicks's hostile tone and Tasha's confusion. There's no sign of Tasha acting aggressively, Simone pointed out, eyes stinging with anger. He just jumped her. Cassandra paused the video. This is definitely helpful. It refutes his claim that she resisted or threatened him, but we need more, preferably some phone footage from a bystander who might have captured a better angle. She typed something on her laptop, presumably drafting an email to her investigators and to the firm's media liaison. We'll put out a call for any witnesses. Many times, these incidents happen in full view of the public. Tasha felt a wave of relief. So we do have a chance? Cassandra's eyes burned with resolve. We have more than a chance. We have a solid path to victory if the evidence keeps pointing our way. But I want you to prepare yourself. Hicks will deny everything, and the department might close ranks around him. This could get messy. Are you ready for that? Drawing on memories of her father's unwavering stance against injustice, Tasha lifted her chin. I'm ready, she said quietly. I won't be silenced. In that moment, Tasha's resolve crystallized. A flicker of hope burned in her chest, fueling her determination. Cassandra's presence and the dashcam footage signaled that the tide might be turning, but Tasha also sensed the coming storm. She steeled herself, bracing for the fight of her life. Word of Tasha's arrest spread quickly through her neighborhood. The small grocery store she frequented, the barber shop on the corner, the church her father once led everywhere. People were talking about how Officer Hicks messed with the wrong woman this time. Some offered prayers, others offered anger. Community leaders from NAACP chapters in nearby wards reached out, pledging support and resources. Local activists gathered to demand an independent review of the incident. At the same time, Tasha's phone blew up with messages of outrage, pity, and confusion. Some of the kids from the community center texted in alarm, asking if she was all right. A few, heartbreakingly, expressed fear that this could easily happen to them. Tasha responded to each as best she could, reminding them to stay strong and believe in justice. A week after the arrest, on a brisk Saturday morning, Tasha found herself at a community rally organized by her close friend Simone and other local activists. They held it outside the community center that had become Tasha's second home. The worn brick exterior contrasted with the bright posters that read "End Police Brutality, Stop Racial Profiling, and Justice for Tasha Robinson." Dozens of supporters crowded the sidewalks, chanting slogans and holding signs. Cameras from local news stations panned across the crowd, capturing the fervor. Tasha stood on a makeshift stage, heart pounding, wearing a coat from the donation drive. She had organized one of the coats that, ironically, Hicks had tossed to the ground during the search of her trunk. Cassandra was by her side, looking poised and professional. Although the lawyer had cautioned Tasha about speaking publicly, she understood that Tasha's role as a community leader demanded it. Simone took the mic first, her voice cutting through the crisp air. We're here to say enough is enough. This city has witnessed far too many cases of discrimination by those who are supposed to protect us. Tasha is one of the kindest, most dedicated people you'll ever meet. She's poured her heart into this neighborhood, but now she's a victim of the very system she's tried to improve. The crowd cheered, fists raised. Tasha's heart swelled with gratitude and an acute awareness of the gravity of the moment. Simone handed Tasha the microphone. She took a steadying breath. I've always believed in working hand in hand with law enforcement, she began, voice resonating with emotion. I was raised by my father, Reverend Samuel Robinson, who taught me that we should never demonize an entire group, be they police officers or the communities they serve. I still believe that most officers want to do the right thing. But when a few abusive officers target innocent people based on their race, and the system protects them instead of holding them accountable, we cannot stay silent. A roar of approval went up. She pressed on, tears glinting at the corner of her eyes. We need transparency, we need accountability, and we need real reform. We're not here to tear the city apart. We're here to make it better for everyone. I'm determined to fight for my rights. Not just for me, but for every young person who fears a routine traffic stop could end in disaster. The crowd erupted, chanting her name. The cameras zoomed in, capturing the electricity of the moment. Tasha's legs felt weak, but her spirit was unbreakable. Shortly after the rally, Tasha and Cassandra faced a small huddle of reporters. Microphones thrust forward, questions pelted them. Miss Robinson, do you plan to file a civil lawsuit? Miss James, do you think this case is part of a larger pattern? How do you respond to the police department's statement that Officer Hicks acted within protocol? Cassandra gave a measured response. We're conducting our own investigation, and I can assure you we'll use every legal mechanism available to fight this injustice. The evidence already suggests a violation of Miss Robinson's constitutional rights. As for the department's statement, we respectfully disagree and look forward to presenting the facts in court. Tasha was about to speak when she noticed a figure on the outskirts of the crowd, Officer Carla Reyes, the rookie who had expressed sympathy at the station. Reyes was in plainclothes, blending with the bystanders. She caught Tasha's eye and gave a subtle nod, as if to offer silent support. But Tasha saw something else there too, apprehension. Reyes might be risking her career just by being there. That night, as Tasha sat in her modest apartment, phone still buzzing from notifications of support, she felt the weight of both empathy and scrutiny. The city was watching her. She prayed for the strength to see this through. The rally had shown her the sheer collective power of community voices. But she also felt a spike of anxiety. With heightened publicity often came heightened retaliation. Hicks was no doubt seething, and the department might be looking for ways to discredit her. She closed her eyes and recalled the memory of her father on the pulpit, urging the congregation to fight for righteous causes. His words, as always, brought solace. "Be strong, Tasha," she whispered to herself, bracing for the battle ahead. The next morning, Tasha woke to an unwelcome knock at her door. She glanced at the clock. It was barely 7 a.m. Tying her bathrobe tight, she approached the door with caution. Through the peephole, she saw 2 uniformed officers. Her pulse jumped, a reflex of fear after the arrest. When she opened the door, one officer introduced himself politely. "Miss Robinson, I'm Sergeant Leary. This is Officer Brandt. May we come in?" Tasha swallowed, stepping aside. Her mind raced through possibilities. Had Hicks filed another bogus complaint? Were they here to intimidate her? She decided that she was done cowering. "Sure," she said, her voice steady. The officers, both appearing more respectful than Hicks, stepped into her living room, scanning the space with professional curiosity. The apartment was neat, decorated with personal touches, a framed photo of her father, motivational quotes on the walls, a few potted plants on the windowsill. "Miss Robinson," Sergeant Leary began, "we're from the Internal Affairs Division. We understand you've alleged misconduct against Officer Ray Hicks. We'd like to get your statement on record." Tasha blinked. She hadn't expected Internal Affairs to pay her a personal visit, especially not so soon. "I gave my statement to the station after the arrest, but, sure, I can tell you everything again." Brandt flipped open a notepad, and Leary pulled out a small audio recorder. "For clarity, we're here to gather facts, not to pass judgment. Can you describe your experience with Officer Hicks during the traffic stop?" Tasha recounted the story again, trying to keep her voice calm despite the lingering anger. She explained that she had complied with all instructions, had no idea why she was pulled over, and believed she had been targeted because of her race. Leary nodded thoughtfully, but his expression remained unreadable. "You mentioned earlier that you have a lawyer. We'd like to speak with her as well, to coordinate the sharing of any evidence." I'll let her know, Tasha said. Brandt offered a small nod. Thank you for your cooperation, Miss Robinson. They exchanged contact information, and the officers left, leaving Tasha's mind swirling. It almost seemed too straightforward, too polite, internal affairs, officers making an early morning house call. But from everything Cassandra had warned her about, Tasha suspected the department might be preparing its own defense and was simply fishing for contradictory statements. She resolved to stay vigilant. Later that afternoon, while Tasha was returning home from a quick grocery run, she noticed a police cruiser idling in front of her building. A chill ran through her. Was it Hicks? She had read stories about officers harassing defendants in an attempt to get them to drop complaints. She steeled herself and walked past the vehicle, eyes forward, ignoring it as best she could. The cruiser pulled away slowly, but not before Tasha caught a glimpse of the driver's face. It wasn't Hicks. Still, it felt like a warning, or at least a subtle reminder that she was under scrutiny. She called Cassandra. Officers from Internal Affairs showed up this morning, Tasha said. Then I see a police cruiser lurking outside my place. Am I being paranoid? Cassandra's voice came through firm. No, you're being cautious. The department might be investigating Hicks, or they might be gathering intel to undermine your complaint. I'll file a notice with the department, formally advising them that all communications should go through me. If they need your statement, it goes through me. Thank you, Tasha whispered, a wave of relief surging through her. I want this to be over. It will be, Cassandra reassured her. But justice takes time. We're building a formidable case. Hang in there. Tasha ended the call, still on edge. She thought of her father's unwavering stance against fear. He once said, "Fear is a chain. If you let it wrap around your mind, it'll hold you tight. Break it before it hardens." With that memory, she stood at her window and watched the city hum with everyday life. Kids playing, neighbors chatting, the hum of distant traffic. She resolved not to let fear chain her, even though the cracks in the system were all too visible. A few days later, Tasha received a cryptic text message from a number she didn't recognize. We need to talk. Coffee shop on 9th and Walnut, 8 p.m. discreet. CR. It took Tasha a moment to realize who CR might be. Carla Reyes, the rookie officer who had shown her kindness in custody. Tasha hesitated. Was this a trap? But her gut told her Reyes was genuinely trying to help. She forwarded the text to Cassandra, who replied simply, "Go if you feel comfortable, but take someone with you, and keep a record of everything." That evening, Tasha headed to the coffee shop with Simone in tow. The small cafe was dimly lit, with only a few patrons hunched over laptops or reading newspapers. Reyes sat in the far corner, wearing a grey hoodie and jeans, her police uniform nowhere in sight. She stood up when she saw Tasha and Simone approach. "Thank you for coming." "I'm sorry I had to be secretive," Reyes murmured, gesturing for them to sit. "I'm doing this off the record." Simone raised an eyebrow. "What exactly is this?" Reyes exhaled slowly. "I know you have a lawyer, so I'm not here to give you legal advice, but I do want to give you a heads up about what's happening inside the precinct." Tasha folded her hands on the table. "We're listening." Reyes glanced around cautiously. "Word is that Hicks has friends in the higher ranks. They're trying to push the narrative that you provoked him, and that you have a history of anti-police sentiment. But more than that, I overheard something about them tampering with evidence or withholding certain audio files that might show Hicks's racist remarks." Tasha's blood ran cold. They're tampering with evidence? It's not confirmed, but I overheard Hicks bragging that the department always has his back. It's common knowledge that body cam footage can sometimes go missing or come out incomplete, especially in cases that could look bad for the department. Reyes eyed Tasha, her voice dropping. "I can't openly accuse them. I'm still on probation as a new hire, and I'd likely be out of a job." But I wanted you to know that you should look for any missing pieces. Don't trust the official channels to give you everything." Simone shook her head in disbelief. "This is blatant corruption." Reyes nodded sadly. "The culture is worse than I imagined when I applied. Not all cops are bad, but the good ones often feel powerless. Or they just look away." Her eyes flicked to Tasha. "I'm sorry about what happened to you. I joined the force to protect people, not to aid bullies." Tasha reached over and squeezed Reyes's hand. "Thank you for telling us. This could really help our case. But be careful. I don't want you putting yourself in danger. I'll do what I can from the inside," Reyes replied. "But please, push for all discovery documents, phone logs, body cam footage, everything. That's how you'll catch them if they're hiding something." They parted ways quietly, each stepping back into the chilly Philadelphia night with a heavier heart. Tasha relayed everything to Cassandra by phone on the way home, prompting Cassandra to vow immediate legal motions for full discovery. Later, in the stillness of her apartment, Tasha felt both gratitude and sorrow. Gratitude that officers like Reyes existed, sorrow that the system seemed so stacked against the truth. She reminded herself that justice was never won easily. It was forged through bold steps, moral courage, and unwavering resolve. True to Cassandra's word, she unleashed a wave of legal actions. Motions were filed demanding the release of all body cam and dash cam footage from the night of Tasha's arrest. Subpoenas targeted Hicks's disciplinary record, as well as any internal memos or email chains referencing Tasha's arrest. Morgan and Morgan's investigative team began combing through Hicks's past cases, seeking plaintiffs who might have lodged formal complaints that were never properly investigated. Meanwhile, Tasha's criminal case loomed. The DA hadn't dropped the charges yet. Whether out of inertia or departmental politics, the prosecution seemed intent on proceeding, at least to see if Tasha would buckle under pressure. Cassandra prepared meticulously, drafting a motion to dismiss based on insufficient evidence and unconstitutional policing. The day came for a preliminary hearing. Tasha arrived at the courthouse early, clad in a simple black dress and a neat blazer. Hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her mother had flown in from out of state, quietly offering support alongside Simone. Cassandra met them at the entrance, crisp and confident, carrying a bulging binder of carefully organized materials. They sat in a sparse, fluorescent, lit courtroom with worn benches. Officer Hicks was there, expression cold, his attorney by his side, a middle-aged, silver-haired man who looked like he specialized in representing police officers facing misconduct allegations. When the session began, Hicks testified that Tasha had refused to comply with a lawful order to exit her vehicle and that she had flailed her arms aggressively when he tried to cuff her. Cassandra's eyes blazed as she listened. It was a blatant lie, contradicted by the dashcam audio at least, if not the angle-limited footage. When Cassandra rose to cross-examine Hicks, the room seemed to tighten with anticipation. Her voice rang with calm authority. "Officer Hicks, you stated Miss Robinson refused to exit the vehicle, yet the dashcam audio records you ordering her to get out, and within 5 seconds, we hear the door open. Are you suggesting 5 seconds is a refusal?" Hicks looked flustered for an instant before collecting himself. She hesitated. "She asked me why," which raised my suspicion. Cassandra tilted her head. "It's not illegal for a citizen to ask why they're being asked to step out of their car, is it?" Hicks fidgeted. "No," but her tone was confrontational. Cassandra let silence linger, then continued, "Let's talk about the flailing arms. You claim Miss Robinson flailed her arms when you tried to cuff her, yet in the dashcam footage, we don't hear Miss Robinson yelling or resisting. We only hear you saying, "Stop resisting," and her replying, "I'm not resisting." So where is the evidence of this flailing? Hicks's lawyer objected to the question, but the judge allowed it. Hicks cleared his throat. The camera angle didn't catch it. She was close to the side of her car. And if the body cam footage were available, do you believe it would show this alleged flailing? Hicks hesitated. "My body cam was malfunctioning that night," he finally said, casting a brief glance at his attorney. "Technical difficulties." A small ripple of disbelief swept the gallery. Cassandra nodded slowly. "Interesting. Given the gravity of the arrest, one would think the footage would be critical." She paused. "No further questions, Your Honor." When Tasha took the stand, she spoke softly but firmly, recounting the events with unwavering detail. Under her direct testimony, the judge scribbled notes. The DA tried to poke holes in her account, but found little purchase against Tasha's calm, consistent retelling and the partial dashcam audio. The hearing ended with the judge indicating he would need time to review the evidence before ruling on whether the charges would proceed. As they left the courthouse, Simone squeezed Tasha's hand. "You were amazing," she whispered. "You kept it together, told the truth. They can't ignore that." Cassandra exhaled. Hicks's story is already falling apart. His claim of a malfunctioning body cam is suspicious. We just need the judge to see that. If this goes to trial, it'll be an uphill battle for the prosecution, but Tasha felt a lingering unease. The system, she knew, sometimes chose to believe officers over civilians, especially black civilians. Even though the evidence weighed in her favor, she couldn't shake the gnawing anxiety that she might become just another statistic of wrongful conviction. She held on to Cassandra's confidence like a lifeline, reminding herself that she wasn't fighting alone. Weeks passed, filled with sleepless nights and relentless days. Tasha kept working at the community center, despite the stress. Every time she walked into the building, the kids would cheer her name or ask how she was doing. It gave her a sense of purpose, fueling her determination to keep fighting. Then, one day, a major breakthrough arrived in the form of an anonymous email sent to Cassandra's secure tip line. The subject read, "Body Cam Footage Officer Hicks." Attached was a video file. Cassandra immediately called Tasha. Tasha rushed to Cassandra's office, heart pounding. They gathered around Cassandra's computer, shutting the blinds and locking the door for privacy. Cassandra clicked play. The footage showed Tasha's arrest from a vantage point that could only be Hicks's body camera. It had not been malfunctioning. The timestamp and data, coded into the file, indicated it was recorded precisely during the incident. And it was damning. The video captured Hicks approaching Tasha's window, barking orders, rifling through her trunk, and then wrenching her arm behind her back. Tasha's compliance was evident. She never raised her voice, nor made any threatening gestures. The audio included Hicks muttering, "These people never learn," as he slapped the cuffs on. The phrase hung in the air like a vile epithet. Tasha's breath caught in her throat. The images on the screen made her relive the trauma, but they also vindicated her. Hicks's cruelty and racism were laid bare. Cassandra paused the video. "This is the smoking gun," she said quietly. "It proves Hicks lied under oath. It proves you were compliant. And it clearly shows a racist motive. Where did this come from?" Tasha asked, voice shaking. Cassandra shook her head. The email was anonymous. Probably an officer with access to the files, or a clerk in charge of storing body cam footage. Maybe even Reyes. Whoever it is, they risked a lot to get this to us. Simone, who had arrived a few minutes earlier, hugged Tasha. "Girl, this is it. He's done." Cassandra nodded, her expression grimly satisfied. "We'll forward this to the DA and file an immediate motion to dismiss the charges, along with a request for a criminal investigation into Officer Hicks for perjury and civil rights violations." Tasha watched the video again, tears of relief mingling with anger. She saw Hicks's face contorted in callous arrogance as he forced her to the trunk of her car. She heard the words, "These people never learn." The system that had protected Hicks was now on the verge of a reckoning. Within 24 hours, Cassandra had submitted the footage to the court and the DA's office. The local media got wind of it too. News outlets ran headlines like "Body cam footage contradicts officer's claims in controversial arrest" and "Philadelphia police officer allegedly conceals evidence, raises questions of racial bias." The footage spread across social media platforms, igniting fury and renewed calls for reform. The DA's office, facing mounting public pressure, dropped the charges against Tasha within a week. In a terse statement, the DA explained that new evidence had emerged, making it impossible to proceed. They pointedly did not elaborate on whether Hicks would face charges, but an internal police investigation was announced. For Tasha, it felt like the culmination of an arduous journey. Relief washed over her as she realized she was no longer battling a criminal charge. Yet, the second phase loomed, holding Hicks accountable and seeking justice through the civil lawsuit. She knew it wouldn't be easy. The department would likely attempt to settle the case quietly to avoid a messy trial. But Tasha wanted more than money. She wanted institutional changes. A public acknowledgement that this wasn't just about one corrupt officer, it was about a system that allowed him to thrive. Still, as she stood on the steps of the courthouse, with Simone, her mother, and Cassandra by her side, Tasha inhaled the crisp autumn air. The charges were gone, her name was cleared, and Hicks's downfall felt imminent. She looked up at the sky, imagining her father's proud smile, and whispered a quiet prayer of thanks. The civil proceedings against Hicks and the Philadelphia Police Department began 6 months later in a tense courtroom brimming with reporters, community members, and activists. Tasha's lawsuit alleged violation of her Fourth and 14th Amendment rights, citing false arrest, excessive force, and racial discrimination. Morgan & Morgan had assembled a powerhouse legal team under Cassandra's leadership, each attorney specializing in civil rights litigation. During jury selection, Cassandra meticulously weeded out potential jurors who might be biased against Tasha or overly deferential to police. The final panel included a diverse cross-section of the community, reflecting a range of ages and backgrounds. Tasha felt a mix of nervousness and hope when she saw them seated in the jury box, their faces mostly neutral but alert with interest. In her opening statement, Cassandra set the tone. This case is about more than just Tasha Robinson. It's about a police culture that protects bad actors and punishes the innocent. The evidence will show that Officer Ray Hicks falsified reports, suppressed critical footage, and violated Miss Robinson's constitutional rights because of his discriminatory views. Hicks's defense attorney tried to paint Tasha as a radical activist who disliked the police and had exaggerated the incident for personal gain. He insisted that Hicks had acted in good faith and that the body cam footage somehow was illegally obtained, thus casting doubt on its admissibility. But Cassandra deftly dismantled these claims. She presented the dashcam audio, witness statements from people who had driven by that night, and most damningly, the body cam footage. As the jury watched Hicks snarl, "These people never learn," a collective gasp filled the courtroom. Then came Carla Reyes's testimony, the biggest twist of all. Summoning remarkable bravery, Reyes had agreed to testify under subpoena. She took the stand in her uniform, standing tall. Cassandra began, "Officer Reyes, did you have any direct conversations with Officer Hicks about Miss Robinson's arrest?" Reyes nodded. "Yes. A few hours after Miss Robinson was booked, I overheard Hicks telling another officer that he did what he had to do and that he didn't need body cam footage tying his hands." A murmur ran through the courtroom. Hicks's attorney objected, but the judge allowed the testimony. Officer Reyes, did you also witness any attempts by Officer Hicks or others to conceal or destroy footage? Cassandra asked. I saw Officer Hicks in the evidence room, frantically checking the logs. He was agitated. He said something like, I can't let them see what really happened. I didn't see him actually destroy anything, but I knew something was wrong. Reyes's voice wavered slightly, as if the weight of her words threatened to crush her. But she soldiered on, painting a picture of an officer desperate to hide his misconduct. When she finished, the courtroom was still. Tasha felt tears prick at her eyes, moved by Reyes's courage. The defense tried to discredit Reyes, implying she was a disgruntled rookie. But Cassandra had anticipated that, presenting Reyes's impeccable record and her shining commendations from the academy. After weeks of testimony, cross-examinations, and emotional recounting, the jury deliberated for 2 days. Tasha spent those days in a swirl of anxiety, leaning on Simone and her mother for comfort, and clutching the memory of her father's unwavering resolve. Cassandra stayed in constant communication, pacing the floors of her office like a caged lion. Finally, the jury returned with a unanimous verdict. They found that Officer Hicks had violated Tasha Robinson's constitutional rights, and that the city of Philadelphia had failed to properly supervise or discipline him, contributing to the violation. The damages awarded were substantial enough to send a clear message that such conduct would not be tolerated. Tasha's breath caught in her throat as the judge read out the jury's decision. Relief, joy, and a profound sense of justice washed over her. Cameras flashed, capturing her tears. The audience erupted in cheers, with many chanting her name. It was a resounding victory, a turning point. But the final blow came when the district attorney's office, spurred by the mountain of evidence revealed during the civil trial, charged Hicks with perjury, obstruction of justice, and civil rights violations. As Tasha watched him being led out of the courtroom in cuffs, an ironic reversal of what he had done to her, she felt a mix of triumph and sorrow. The system was finally working as it should, but it took far too much pain and fighting to get there. In the weeks that followed, Tasha was hailed as a hero by many in the community. Donations poured into the community center, enabling new programs and expansions. She became a spokesperson for police reform, traveling to speak at forums and conferences about systemic racism, accountability, and the power of collective action. The local NAACP branch recognized her with a special award for her courage. The Philadelphia Police Department scrambled to enact new policies. Body cam footage became automatically backed up to secure cloud servers, making it harder for anyone to manipulate or hide evidence. In a further shake-up, several high-ranking officers who had shielded Hicks were either fired or forced to resign, triggering a wave of introspection within the department. As for Cassandra James, her work on Tasha's case propelled her into the spotlight of civil rights advocacy, cementing her reputation as one of the fiercest attorneys in the region. She continued to represent clients who had faced discrimination, using her newfound platform to push for broader reforms. Officer Carla Reyes, still in uniform, found her courage rewarded. Though she faced an internal storm for her testimony, public support and Tasha's advocacy helped protect her job. She continued working to make positive changes within the force, slowly chipping away at the entrenched culture. Tasha's personal life, once upended, found a new equilibrium. The settlement money, after legal fees, was partly used to set up scholarships for local youth. She refused to let the funds serve only as personal gain. Her father's teachings guided her to invest in collective uplift. This money should heal, not just me, she said at the announcement of the scholarship program, but the entire community. And so life went on, forever changed by those tumultuous months. Tasha discovered a deeper sense of purpose in activism. Cassandra refined her crusade for justice, and the community center blossomed with new resources. It was a story of triumph birthed from tragedy, a testament to the truth that when good people stand firm, even the most oppressive walls can crumble. Thank you for joining us in this compelling journey of injustice turned into triumph. Tasha Robinson's story highlights the power of unwavering determination in the face of institutional racism. Her courage, combined with the brilliant advocacy of Cassandra James, serves as a testament that standing up against wrongdoers, no matter how powerful, can bring about profound change. From the moment Officer Hicks misused his authority to the revealing of hidden body cam footage, this saga reminds us that truth, when championed by those who refuse to give up, will eventually shine through. If you found this story inspiring, help us spread the message. Like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that unmask corruption and uplift everyday heroes. Your engagement fuels our mission to spotlight tales of hope, resilience, and ultimate victory against all odds. Together, let's continue to fight for justice.